Welcome to Mindful with Minaa, where we explore how mindfulness can enhance your relationships and well-being. I'm your host, Minaa B, a licensed social worker, mental health educator, and author. Through insightful discussions, I will guide you towards self-awareness and self-efficacy, empowering you to effectively manage your relationships, reduce burnout, and be more present with yourself. So let's jump into today's episode. What's up, mindful community? So before I jump into today's episode, I actually have a very special announcement for you. If you have been enjoying all of the content that I've been sharing on this podcast, you're also a subscriber of my newsletter, and you've been following me on social media, here is an opportunity for you to connect with me in person. In November, from the 15th through the 17th, which is a Friday to Sunday, I am hosting a retreat at the Art of Living Retreat Center in Boone, North Carolina. During this retreat, I am going to be giving you the tools that you need to engage in self-discovery, practice self-attunement, but most importantly, learn how to engage in relational growth by learning how to set boundaries, enrich your communication, but also develop healthy emotional regulation skills, as well as healthy self-care practices. To register for the retreat, all you have to do is click the information that is listed in my show notes to get all of the information you need regarding how to get to the location, pricing, as well as view the class schedule during the weekend retreat. I am so excited for this opportunity to meet with you in person and to just take all of this knowledge that I've been teaching you, but bring it to you in person. So I am so excited to meet you in November. And if you have any questions for me regarding the retreat, please feel free to also send me an email. Now, let's jump into today's episode. So today I want to share with you 4 realistic healing goals that you can set as you try to do the work of taking care of your mental health, engaging in personal development, and doing the work that you need to evolve as a human. And what prompted me to do this episode is the unrealistic expectations I see a lot of people putting on themselves when it comes to tending to their wounds, when it comes to taking care of their mental health, healing from trauma, healing from depression, healing from a friendship breakup, healing from a divorce. I think a lot of people assume that if you are going to do the work of healing, that means things are supposed to be feeling good. If you're healing, it means you're not suffering at the same time. If you're healing, it means you're not struggling at the same time. If you're healing, that means you're not experiencing pain at the same time, and that is not true. The most beautiful thing that we can do is honor the duality of our emotion. We live in a society that pushes this message that if you love yourself, then you wouldn't make mistakes. If you love yourself, you wouldn't have a low self-esteem. If you love yourself, there are certain behavioral patterns you wouldn't engage in. And honestly, that's not true either. You can love yourself, and due to certain forms of conditioning that you have, especially if you grew up in a household where dysfunction was normalized, you never healed from your trauma. And there are so many people who are walking around with trauma wounds and they don't even realize it because everyone else around them has the same wound. It's an intergenerational wound, and nobody has been able to say, actually, these wounds need healing. It's not normal that we have these wounds, and we actually need to do something about it. And so there are times where we can love ourselves and make choices that actually may not be healthy for us, without even realizing that those choices are not healthy for us until we experience the consequence. And so as people, it's important for us to do the work of honoring that there are going to be times where I love myself and the choice that I make may not come from a place of self-love. And instead of judging it, the first thing I need to do is use discernment and try to unpack the root behind this behavior. There are going to be times where I'm feeling good, life is good, but there's still some sense of pain and sorrow attached to a situation. And one of the ways that we can limit our growth and healing is by not allowing multiple truths to exist in our reality. Life can be hard and beautiful at the same time. And so one of the things that I want you to give yourself permission to do is to allow your emotions to clash with one another. And when you recognize those emotions are clashing, how can you now start to do the work of investigating why are these two opposing truths trying to coexist? What is the situation at hand? What can I learn from the situation? And there are times where we can recognize that a situation can bring us so much gratitude, but also so much hurt and so much sorrow. To share a personal story, my life changed during the year of 2020. I had been working a full-time job at the time and pretty much for years prior to that. But I was also engaging in my business as a side hustle. And in 2020, I'm sure you remember the year of 2020 and how that impacted our world with the coronavirus pandemic and then the murder of George Floyd. And then it was just this ripple effect of racial tension and racial trauma and environmental trauma and just all of these different things happening. The shifts in the workplace, working from home, dealing with extreme forms of burnout. And that is when corporations started to flood my inbox to say, Mina, we need you to come in to our organization to talk about racial trauma, how to take care of your mental health and mitigate burnout, how to recover from burnout, and just different mental health practices so that employees and employers can feel more supported regarding their mental health. And I always tell people, if 2020 did not happen, I don't know if my life would be what it is right now. My life changed because of suffering. People were suffering, and it gave me an opportunity to do the work of helping them heal. But in the midst of me getting an opportunity to help people heal, it also changed my life in a way where I was able to quit my full-time job and engage in entrepreneurship full-time. I got a book deal. My social media accounts blew up. So many things. And so, did I feel grateful? Of course I did. But I also admit that there was a lot of sadness attached to knowing that, like, my life changed because of suffering. And I am grateful that I had the tools and still have the tools to help people find respite from their suffering. And so that is what it looks like to honor that sometimes a situation can bring up such complex emotions, and we have to allow the two emotions to just coexist and recognize there are going to be situations that bring pain, but also bring pleasure. And how can you allow yourself to just embrace that in this current moment, based off whatever your circumstances are, these are the emotions that are coming to the surface? What does it look like for you to just allow yourself to feel those things instead of judging the negative emotion, but only wanting to honor the positive one? Or sometimes we judge the positive emotion based off the situation, and we feel like we're only supposed to honor the negative emotion instead of allowing ourselves to just be human. The next healing goal that I think is really important, and it ties very well to the idea of allowing two opposing feelings to exist, which is to become more self-compassionate during hard times. The number one thing I see a lot of people do that sets them back on their healing journey is engaging in self-deprecation and negative self-talk. I am a firm believer that tearing ourselves down does not make us better as people. Negative self-talk is literally the equivalent of somebody digging their own grave and deciding that I made a mistake and I am so worthless that I am just going to continue to dig and dig and dig this hole, and I'm going to put myself in this hole. And now I realize I'm so deep in this hole, I'm struggling to get out of it. And that is what negative self-talk does to us. It is us literally taking the shovel, digging and digging and digging and crawling ourselves into this 6-foot hole. And now we need tools to get out of it, and we feel stuck. And we don't realize we're the ones who dug the hole in the first place. And so one of the things I want you to be thinking about is the way that you speak over yourself. The messages you tell yourself when you mess up. Is that how you would want someone to speak to you? Is it okay to call yourself stupid because you made a mistake? Is it okay to see yourself as worthless because you messed up in a particular relationship or you didn't have the skills that you needed to maintain a friendship or even a romantic partnership? Is it okay to punish yourself instead of doing the work of being accountable and being self-reflective. And sometimes we don't realize that the more we engage in negative self-talk, the more we stay stuck in a mindset of anxiety and feeling misery and sorrow. Because if you have nothing good to say about yourself, why would you also feel motivated to do better? If you're looking in the mirror every single day and talking down on yourself, degrading yourself, judging yourself, then what you're telling yourself is, there is no hope for me. There's no way I can do better if I am the person doing the oppression. And so if you want to be liberated, you also have to recognize that at some point you have to put the shovel down. And instead of saying things like, I'm not good enough, one of the things that I can say is, you know what? Maybe this experience is teaching me something. And what are the lessons that I can learn here? Another thing you can say is, instead of saying I'm not good enough because maybe you experienced some form of heartbreak, you can remind yourself not to take people's actions personally. You can remind yourself that we are not equally yoked with everybody. You can remind yourself that just because one person rejected you doesn't make you an unlovable or unworthy person. And so I encourage you to start thinking about the ways you speak to yourself. Do you judge yourself? Do you put yourself down? Do you have that shovel in your hand, and do you recognize that there's a 10-foot grave next to you right now because you just keep digging and digging and digging, and now you have no way out of that hole? And the only way to get out of that hole is to learn how to embrace yourself with self-compassion, with self-love, with encouragement, and honoring that you're human and you're going to do what humans do. And sometimes you're going to make mistakes. You're going to mess up. You're not going to be for everyone. You're going to experience rejection. You're going to experience disappointment. But when you hold yourself with compassion, you recognize, despite the things that I experience, I'm still worthy. And I still get the opportunity to stand tall. I can still give myself permission to stand tall even when suffering is happening. So I want you to be thinking about ways you can be more compassionate to yourself. The other healing goal I want you to be thinking about is how you can open your eyes to the little ways growth manifests in your life. Too often, when I hear people talking about healing and growing and evolving, we attach these grandiose expectations on ourselves. And I will hear people say, I'm giving myself a timeline. Within 6 months, I need to be healed from this breakup. Within 6 months, I need to be better. Within 6 months, I expect this to happen. And it's like, all right, slow down. If you are putting a timetable on your healing, guess what? Life is going to laugh in your face, okay? Because there is no timetable. It can take years to heal from something. For some people, it can take maybe 6 months to heal from a breakup. And for another person, it might take a year. The experience of healing from a 6-month relationship compared to a 10-year marriage where children are involved might look completely different. And to try to put a timetable on it and a limit on it is not realistic. And again, it's going to play a role in your suffering, because now you're beating yourself up because you are expecting to meet certain milestones by a deadline. Healing is not a race. There is no finish line. This is a journey, and we have to open ourselves up to recognizing that healing is going to look different as we evolve as people. And so there are going to be times where you're growing and you don't even realize that you're growing because you're growing in subtle ways. You have to learn how to be patient with yourself when you are trying to grow. Where did we pull out this arbitrary number and have this belief that if I'm sad about something, I should only cry about it for 2 days? I should only be sad about it for a week. Where did we get that from? And why? How does that serve you? That's the question you need to ask yourself. How does that serve you? If you recognize that the pain that you're going through is so debilitating that it is interrupting your life, what that actually should tell you is that you need greater levels of care to tend to your emotional wounds. It's not about the timeline. And so when we're saying I'm giving myself 6 months to heal, and then you're beating yourself up because 6 months came and you still feel like whatever happened is debilitating to your life, What that actually could be a sign of is that over the last 6 months, maybe you aren't really getting the tools that you need to heal. So if we're going to measure healing through time, what about the resources? What about the effort? What about the intentionality? What are you actually doing during that 6 month time period to actually be healed and to grow? So before you start to say, my healing is supposed to look this way, what would it look like for you to free yourself from this arbitrary thought that healing only shows up in your life one way and just allow growth to manifest in the multiple ways growth shows up in our lives? Now, the last goal that I want you to have for yourself is to make room for grief as you do this work of healing. I talked about this earlier, but so many people create this illusion that once you do start doing the work, you're always going to be happy now. So I had been dealing with pain my whole life. I experienced this tragedy or I experienced this difficult situation, and now I decided to go to therapy. And so now that I'm in therapy, I'm supposed to feel happy, right? I'm supposed to be happy when I leave each session. I'm supposed to feel a lot of joy now that I'm talking about my depression. And that's not always the case. When you decide to start doing the work of self reflecting, analyzing situations, talking about difficult situations, and trying to make changes so that you can become a different person, that means you're leaving a particular version of yourself behind. It could also mean that there are going to be people in your life that you realize you're going to have to either leave them behind or you're going to have to adjust your degree of closeness to them because you may realize those are the relationships that are triggersome to you. And that is going to come with a lot of sorrow and a lot of grief. To know that I'm going to have to learn to accept that my parent is emotionally immature and doesn't want to do better, that's painful. To realize that this person that I've been calling my friend this whole entire time for 5 years or even 10 years, I'm realizing that this is actually a very emotionally abusive relationship and it's not a healthy friendship. That's going to bring up grief and sorrow. And so when we start to heal, we start to realize that there's going to be certain things in our life that we have to let go of. It's like walking into the airport and you have all this luggage, and then you check your luggage in. And then when you get to your destination, you realize I packed all this stuff for this trip. And now that I'm here, I'm realizing everything that's in that suitcase is unhealthy for me. And so now I'm here. I've landed. I've arrived. This is what I've been waiting for. I booked this trip a long time ago. I was eager for it. I was excited for it. And I packed my life into this suitcase. I packed things in this suitcase that remind me of certain people in my life. The things that I've been utilizing for years is in this suitcase. And now that I've arrived, now that I've landed, I'm being told that if I pick that suitcase up off the belt, that will hinder my mental health. The things in that bag no longer serve me where I'm at in my journey. On this side, where I've landed, the things in that suitcase are no longer for me. That is what healing can feel like. Now that you're going to therapy, or you're reading the books, or you're listening to this podcast, and you're realizing, oh no, I actually have to make some adjustments here because I've been waiting for other people to make the adjustment. I have to make the adjustment. And as a result of me making the adjustment, this is difficult. This is hard. And now I find myself grieving the changes to a relationship, the loss of a relationship, but also changes to my life. And so one of the things you have to remember is in the midst of you wanting to do better, there are going to be a lot of things that you have to let go of. And in the midst of you wanting to do better, there's a lot of things that you're going to have to grieve in order to give yourself the life that you believe you deserve. And so as you do this work of healing, I just want you to be mindful of the goals that you set. I want you to take all this information in and apply it to your life and start to be self-reflective right now and ask yourself, what are some expectations you're putting on yourself right now that's not realistic? And how can you set goals that actually are in alignment with you getting to where you want to go? That's all for today's episode. Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed what you just listened to, please take a moment to rate and review this podcast on your preferred platform. Also, don't forget to share it with a friend and on social media. To stay connected with me and my work, follow me on social media and subscribe to the Mindful with Mina newsletter, which can be found on my website, www.minab.com. You can also continue learning from me by ordering my book, Owning Our Struggles, which is available at all major book retailers. Stay tuned for a new episode next week, and most importantly, remember to be present and stay mindful. Take care and goodbye for now.